Hello everyone, welcome to Hyperbole. Call it Hyperbole because it makes it mine. Yes, I know it's hyperbole. But anyway, Scott here again from the Guilty Pleasure Cinema, and yesterday I got out of Frank Miller's Sin City, A Dame to Kill For. Our AVX 3D Frank Millers. Those Frank Millers were so in 3D. And actually it's an accurate statement because he's in the movie like twice. So, fun fact, I didn't realize the movie was in 3D until I gave my ticket and handed the thing. I'm like, oh, it's 3D. Doesn't need to be 3D. I'm usually a big advocate of 3D movies. I like the 3D feel and like the Avatar style immersion of it. Like it's another just a depth of field trick. But then there's always the fun ones with Hercules having stuff go at the screen and Dread as well playing with that. So I like both aspects of it. Sin City is already visually distinct enough where they're manipulating the field and view, where the 3D is kind of superfluous. Superfluous? This show is about saying words wrong, but you know what I mean. It's not really necessary, but I was hopeful that once I realized 3D, okay, maybe it'll be like 300 that really uses it and just goes all out. It doesn't. It's still pretty flat with the eyes or the mouth or whatever that's a different color. It's kind of weird that way. But Sin City 2, for the sake of argument, I always thought that the first one was okay. I saw it in theaters, and it didn't really sit well with me. Felt like it was missing something. It ended abruptly. In rewatching it, when I first got the DVD back in 2005 or 6, when I got it, it was like, okay, this is good. I kind of get it now. I know more about it because I didn't know much about Sin City going in. The comic series, that is. So I understood more about it and I appreciated it more. And then 9 years passed. So actually last night with a friend I watched it. And we're like, that was actually really good. Like that holds up. Visually, thematically. There's some elements of it that are just, when you really apply logic, fall apart. And that comes into the sequel here. But it's obviously the out of order type thing like a Pulp Fiction where you've got your opening story, you've got middle stuff, then you've got another story that references something that must have happened before this one, because this one ended with a character dead and he's here again, and then the ending piece to bookend it. Okay. But the problem was the structure of that was problematic because the stuff that you really liked got out of the way early and it kind of faltered from there. The sequel opens with stuff you like, and thinking of that, you're like, okay, well, they're going to bookend that. Okay. So already you're off to a good start. And not having seen the first one in so long, and then watching it right before the sequel, is probably the best thing you can do, and I highly recommend it, because it opens up with references and things that you might not have remembered. It'd be familiar, like, didn't he say that? But literally seeing it, the style, the thematics, you can take these two movies and cut them all up and put them in the right orders that they would actually appear, and it would be like this. Like, it isn't just this piece, it's a jumble. Even like from the two, it's goofy, and it would all thematically work and link. So what you have in Sin City 2, which again is a disservice to call it because it's a prequel, sequel, sidequel, you have elements that happen after the end of the first movie. Definitively, the ending of the movie of the first one. It's been out 9 years. I'm gonna spoil stuff, so there you go. The ending of the first one ends with John Hardigan shooting himself to keep Nancy Callahan safe, because if they don't know where Hardigan is, and they can't make him talk, they'll never find the girl. So he's doing it to save her. That's how it ends. The new one picks up after that. Specifically after that. Okay, we have that. And that storyline progresses to its conclusion, which is how that movie ends. Throughout, though, the first movie also had sequences with Marv, who had his story about trying to avenge the murder of a woman he fell for, and it ends with his death. He's in the electric chair. He dies. But then the next story about a murderer who's got a new face, he encounters Marv during that. That must have happened beforehand, right? Okay. And then when we come and do the ending story with Hardigan, like I said, where it ends with him killing himself, he also sees Marv. So these happened before. Okay. So there's all timing there. So the sequel has Marv. Well, obviously this happens earlier than stuff in his own story in the first. You're with me? It does a lot of that. And it's not bad for it. It does work. Like, these are noir stories, and they are kind of interchangeable. I did find myself kind of thinking, where is this compared to that? Like I mentioned, the guy with the new face, the sequel shows how that all went down. It does work. And the other part of the sequel is new stories. Like the ending with with Nancy and that end game, that's new. That's not based on anything from a comic. And so is Joseph Gordon-Levitt's character. That's all new stuff too. So that comes in and is new. It's brand new stuff. And it's really good. His arc is great, but there's no end game to it. Like, if the credits ended when he got his victory, it would have been fine. But it's the real world. It doesn't work that way, and things go south. But it's still well done, well acted, well done for his. The Marv stuff is great because they tease you with things like the first movie did, but then really pay them off more than you expected. So that's really good, and it just gives you more of what you liked from the first. Problem is the whole movie, the Dame to Kill For, that story part. I like Eva Green, she works, and I like Josh Brolin. They didn't have any chemistry, and it's so, like, you know where it's going and it's obvious, but it still kind of hammers the nail on the head, and they're having fun with it, but it drags, especially stuff with the cop that's involved. It's getting in the way, and you just don't care. Like a lot of the stuff from the Clive Owen parts of the first movie, it was just like, I don't care about any of this specific stuff. There's so much more you could be telling us. We know this, you've shown it and alluded to it. So it does drag a bit in that sense. And the movies are only 2 hours, so it's kind of weird. The music is awesome as always. I love the theme. Dun 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 dun. I'm horrible at doing that, but I love that music, and it comes in at the right moments. It's really good. Yeah, it's Sin City 2. It's not needed, but it is welcomed. And like, I know the guys were kind of ragging on it, and that's the other part. It really falls apart when you start to analyze it. And the reason I'm recording this now at 4 in the afternoon the next day is because I stayed up talking with a friend until 6 in the morning about it. And I should have recorded it and then put it all up. But what we really realized in watching the first one beforehand was that Nancy Callahan, age 11, was obsessed with John Hartigan, admittedly because she protected her from rape and murder. And then he was in prison for 8 years. He gets out. Now she's 19. She'd been fantasizing about him the entire time, and kissed him and loved him and said, I never loved any boys, I always loved you. Like, I tried, but it didn't work. So it's like kind of like a schoolgirl crush thing, but it goes beyond that. Well, in this sequel, it's been 4 years later, and after like the death of Hartigan, in the final fight, like, rescued her again, and it's like, he rescued me twice, whatever, and she wants revenge. And she'd been building up her nerve for 4 years, and is still obsessing over him. And it's like, in this world of a yellow bastard that smells like garbage, or Marv, who's like with the nose and he's a caveman who can't be stopped, and all this crazy stuff like the prostitute town and all that, really don't buy that this now 23-year-old can't let it go. Like, I know traumatic event, sure, maybe okay, but it's just they never really explore that. It just is that. And what sucks is that's the climax of the movie, is her arc. Thankfully, Mickey Rourke's Marv is involved in it, so it does bolster it a bit. So it really fell apart because the entire movies, from the start of the first to the end of the second, is Nancy Callahan's arc with Hartigan. And it's the weakest when you will really look at it. Like, the whole thing with Eva Green's character is whatever. It's a manipulative witch, okay. Not literally witch, but maybe, you know, that kind of thing. Like, she's evil. But it's not weak. It's just, that's a piece of it. But it's a piece of an overall story. Like, out of the 8 stories told in their segments, it's one, right? So it's okay. Yeah, whatever. You can lose that one. You can lose this one. Whatever. But the Hartigan thing is like the overall everything of the leader of the Senate. He's the senator and all that. So it kind of falls apart. And from there, it really does trickle down. just kind of want to see more of Marv killing people and doing his thing, but it is what it is. So it's an easy recommendation. If you like Sin City, I recommend it. I think I liked it the most out of everybody, of the four of us that went and saw it. I did enjoy it because it was fun. It was more of kind of what I wanted. Yeah, there's bad acting in it, but kind of the point. But it is weaker than the first, but it doesn't stick around as much as the first. The first one really drags, I feel. This one didn't. It was more entertaining to watch, but it's weaker overall. Take it what you will. Yeah, if you like it, you might be disappointed in it, but it's still absolutely worth seeing. Like I said, don't bother with 3D, and that's the first time I've ever said that, I think. There might have been another one that I said that to, I can't remember. I think there was one actually, but yeah, 3D's not necessary, but Sin City 2, and 0, and 1.5, and -0.5, and all that, so yeah. Definitely check it out, it's worth seeing. And this might be the last Hyperbole for a while, because there's not much more coming out in the next little bit. I'll probably do Hyperboles going forward for things like the Raid 2, which I have on Blu-ray, or even some older ones I haven't checked out, like Immortals, or stuff like that I'll do. But theatrically, I can't think of anything outside of, I believe Paranormal Activity 5 is October, I think. Saw a trailer for Dracula Untold, which looks visually interesting enough that I'll want to see it. Otherwise, like Big Hero 6 is November, Hobbit is December. Like, there's just not much coming up in the next couple weeks that I'm aware of. So it really depends to be seen. But it is absolutely every theatrical release I will do a Hyperbole for. But I'll start applying it to those too, and see. And my friend and I, like I said, we talked for like, God, 5 hours last night. We might be doing some bad movie nights to watch some other stuff, like Nazis at the Center of the Earth. Maybe we'll talk about those too. I already did a GAPT test on it, but maybe a full recap type of thing like this will work. But this is already a lot longer than I intended it. Hyperboles are supposed to be short, but this one kind of deserved it because it is multiple stories and ties in with the first. So do check that out. Do remember as well that Guilty Pleasure Cinema is doing a skip week this week. The last review was for Expendables, and then 2 weeks time, skip, because there wasn't an episode yesterday for Friday. There will not be one this Friday, which it normally would be, and then the skip will be a blank week, and then the normal, because it's just a summer skip week. It's just something I'm doing schedule-wise just to be safe on things. And it helps, because I still have to get out the Indications and the Overrated and Trailer Fist. I gotta really make sure I get those done, so those will be happening. They'll be coming through as well. So check all that stuff out. Check out Zion Mainframe Gaming on YouTube. There's Let's Plays going up now of other stuff I've done with Matt. And of course, Scott's Exclusives is on YouTube as well at recklesseating.com. So guiltypleasurecinema.com, all that good stuff. And thanks again. See you on the next Hyperbole, whenever that happens. I don't know when, but see you next time.